Politically, the game of coalitions, what does it mean for the people who involve themselves in the same or alliances? Is it indeed a fix or a fit? Does it work for them? Does it not work for them? Most of them will tell you that, well, these are just vehicles to take it to the next level in terms of elections. And once you're out of the electioneering period, if you're lucky enough to have won, after a while, well, different figures take their different directions. And so that's what we'll be discussing this morning. We engage a member of parliament, we'll be having a member of county assembly and political analysts that will help us ponder and decipher on the same. Give us the view on this at a point when many would argue that as a country, we have gotten to a level where we must have coalitions if an individual or if a certain side would wish to win the elections, contrary to what we're used to, where maybe a party fronts a candidate and that party is capable of winning. Is it the case? We'll be looking at all that right here as we continue. So welcome on board, even as we look at how the members of parliament had to debate on the budget estimates and whether indeed Wanjiku will be the winner, of course, based on yesterday's arguments as members of parliament rejected Yetani taxes, especially on bread, the likes of unga, the likes of border sector, and so much more. So we look at all this. Karibu sana. We welcome you to be part and parcel of the conversation. Make sure to drop your comments and your questions. We sample them as we continue. #Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KA. And therefore, also later we discuss matters lifestyle and in this case relationships. For that matter, we ask, what do men want when it comes to marriage? Once you are married, once you have married as a man, what is this one thing that you want that you think would be very instrumental in that marriage to eternity, as many would always promise? We'll be having this great conversation. I'm sure you do not want to miss out on the same also. So let the men out there tell us, because sometimes you always point fingers. You do not tell us where it is that we go wrong. The broadcast begins right now. My name is Linda Alela, #Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela, TV47KA. We sample some of these comments as we continue. First things first, the newspaper or the newspapers, first page or the front page of the Standard newspaper. Uhuru condemns Europe's unilateral decisions. We know that he's been in Belgium and great conversations have been there as to how these two nations are able to work together and what then that the country can leverage, because it appears as though in most cases it's us to have our begging bowls around, and therefore that conversation has been captured on page 6, looking at what it is that he speaks of. Page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Let's look at briefly what it is that it details. And here you are. President Uhuru Kenyatta roots for African-made COVID-19 vaccines. He says that will be instrumental for us to also join the global fraternity in dealing with matters COVID-19. And he's also voiced his concerns by the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific over the increasing number of unilateral decisions that have been set by European Union targeted at multilateral institutions, member nations. And President Kenyatta, of course, argues that the summit of the 79 members of institutions since 2019 regretted that the EU doesn't sufficiently engage this entity, that is the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific, before taking some of its decision contrary to what the provisions of the agreement are. And therefore, he argues that that needs to be looked into so that these entities and these countries are engaged accordingly to avoid friction. Away from it, Sarkozy faces jail term, a story captured on page 33, that is on the international scene. In regards to this, of course, case that has been going for quite a while right now, and their verdict goes out there. We'll be looking at it as we proceed. Not free to hold polls. That is in regards to matters education right now. We know well that the education sector and this particular union has had its fair share of wrangles, and therefore the officials that are there say that it is now time that they hold the national polls and root out some of these crucial figures that have been there running the entity for the longest of time. And therefore we expect to see whether they're going to proceed and do the same, and whether then this would be the end of rain for the likes of Wilson Sosion. Shock of 160,000 girls who dropped out of school over COVID-19, and also the report and the fact that most of the schools also closed down and got many students having to go away from school or not proceeding with their education. And at least 160,000 girls, this according to the report, got married when schools shut following the pandemic and did not resume studies in January. Those affected were about 15 to 19 years old. The story captured on page 8. Quite unfortunate report right there. And before we pick the big one, principals plot NASA fate amid mistrust. 3 opposition principals yesterday began to explore chances of either resuscitating the moribund National Super Alliance or ending it altogether. That is ahead of the next polls come 2022. A story captured on page 5. This after talks of Jubilee and ODM looking at possible coalition. What would it mean for the likes of ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, that is Ford Kenya Party leader Moses Wetangula, and the likes of course, Wiper Party leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka. They have given their hard stance on this, but all the same, it appears that they might be pushed to a point where they'll have to soften it all the same. The conversation is on. We'll be looking at that as we proceed. Like we said, the topic of the day is on coalitions, whether they are a fix or a fit for these individuals or the numerous people who get together to merge their parties for purposes of going it to the next elections. And Wanjiku wins as members of parliament reject Yatani taxes, and the lawmakers pulled a big no. The prices of chapati and ugali are likely to go down. That is after legislatures jolted Treasury's revenue raising plan by making changes to the Finance Bill 2021 to ease growing burden on Kenyans. A story captured on page 4. The winners and of course the losers, a majority that have been captured are on the aspect of the winners. We're talking about 0 rate on ugali, and that is unga generally, and also chapati, that's equally flour, and 15% boda's proposed excise duty that has been scrapped, and 0% sugarcane farmers, 0 VAT on transport of sugarcane from farm to factory, 0% exporters, 0% VAT on exports, and the likes of TVET graduates, 5% companies to get tax breaks if they employ 5 TVET graduates, down from 10%, and 16% infant food proposed VAT that has been struck out. And also the losers, 20% foreign internet services, 20% excise duty up from 15%, and 35% imported confectioners or confectioneries, all right, and yes, confectioneries, 35% kilo up from 20%, and 30% for betting entities, 30 and up from the initial proposed 20%. We look to see how then this will be received and whether it goes in handy to assist the common mwananchi, survive. And to a different paper, that is the Daily Nation. State's hand in civil servants teachers union elections. A story captured on the back page. Like we have said, the likes of NAT or the East education sector are open now to proceed for an election, and couple of chaos, a couple of issues have culminated or have cropped up. We've understood the scenario of chaos that has been there for quite a long time, and therefore the Civil Servants Union polls are likely to go through the same. There are divergent opinions in regards to the same. Incumbents claim victory as other candidates vow court action. One group claims rival state connections to influence results. Is the state connected in the same? Is one key thing that is crucial and is a conversation worth having. We can only hope to have one, at least one of these days, engage some of these officials and get their views on this. Away from it, big fish using the courts to delay justice. This, according to DPP Nordin Haji, some high-profile Kenyans have mastered the art of manipulating the criminal justice system to avoid their day in court, or their days in court. A story captured on page 8. Probably not something that would be strange. Is something that we all expected. It's a revelation that many of us would expect based on what it is that we see. Most of them would get into courts, nothing really plays out. Maybe that's a reason why at some point then the courts have been declared as the missing link to dealing with matters graft, because in most cases the courts, the cases will land down there at the courts, but then nothing much plays out in terms of convictions or even us getting to recover the assets based on the declarations that the courts would make after the proceedings. And therefore the DPP has come out to question that and to say that such needs to be looked into. Oh yes, this I did not touch on Matter Sports also has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper, and now on the Daily Nation. Shakedown launches real action today. The WRC Safari Rally will kick off this afternoon with a shakedown at the Ndulele Conservancy of Moi Road in Naivasha. But the main race starts on a Friday. This is one that many are looking at. And we were in Naivasha the other day, over the weekend. Truth be told is that so much is happening down there in terms of preparations. Hotels are almost all packed and booked. And therefore, it is going to be a moment to watch out for. Key story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Members of Parliament block tax on bread, border. Legislators also refuse to give CS power to set VAT without approval of the House. And those are the key things that have been captured upon that review by Parliament, or the parliamentarians, as to the proposed budgets of 2021-2022. Between a rock and a hard place, Treasury CS Ukuri has proposed the new taxes to boost Kenya's revenue collection, but the National Assembly Committee has shot this down. The measures arguing that there are basic items which should be zero rated, as captured on page 4, and therefore we'll be looking at that as we proceed. On the other hand, President Uhuru Kenyatta, big fight back in Ruto's turf, and after his visit to Kambani, that is this month, the president will head to politically entrenched deputy president's backyard, that is Uasin Gishu, Trans Nzoia and Nakuru counties. And as he continues his inspection of government projects across the country, as many would look at it, they read progress, but at the same time you do not fail to look at the political gimmicks that are playing out on that. And KTDA role has ousted the tea agency official Sue Munya and Matiang'i. The Mont Agriculture and Interior Cabinet Secretaries fined and jailed for disobeying a court order halting their removal from office. It will be good to watch. On matters devolution, Kivutha Kibwana and Mutua line up ambitious projects in their last year in office, and Machakos and Makueni county chiefs who want to vie for the presidency in 2022 are banking on their performance to show up their national ratings, or to shove up their national ratings. Also, one that is going to be looked at. We understand that we have about 20 something governors that seek to exit or automatically will exit based on what has been enshrined in the constitution, and therefore that would mean they need to chart the way forward on their next political move. People Daily: and Ethiopia counts votes after 10th poll. Story captured on page 18 of the People Daily. We'll be following up on that just as we have been. It's been a bit polarized down there, but then again they've headed to the counting process, and then we get to see who will be the people who will carry the day right after that. Kenya in race to secure about 13 million vaccine doses. That has been captured on page 6, and the Johnson & Johnson shots will be procured through the AU and are expected by August, and we'll be following up to see what plays out onto that. Uhuru plan leaves Big Four in confusion, political headache, as Kalonzo, Mudavadi and Wetangula hold private talks on their next move following these revelations that Right Honorable Raila Odinga was negotiating an alliance with Jubilee, even as Kanu's Moi tries to fit into the president's 2022 succession matrix. A story captured on page 4, and also what we'll be discussing this morning. And in a point where crime is on the rise in the city, TV journalist attacked as city crime soars. A story captured on page 4. We need to be careful at this point. The scenario is not so friendly, and so it's good that as you traverse the different parts of the city, you are careful, because crime is on even during the day, and therefore that tells you, safety is not guaranteed. Push and pull as teachers' bodies as delegates convene for polls. Some officials accuse Sosion of secretly demanding the postponement of the forthcoming polls. Interesting times to watch, and so much more that have been captured on these particular papers. We'll be looking at them later on alongside my guests. But first, let's pick what my team has prepared. And a man who was driving a car along Thika Road Superhighway was on Tuesday afternoon sprayed with bullets by unknown assailants at Guacairo area in Juja Sub-County. And confirming the incident, Juja Sub-County Police Commander Dorothy Migarusha said that they got reports from members of the public, and upon arriving at the scene, found the car's occupant bleeding profusely. According to eyewitnesses, 2 speeding vehicles suddenly appeared with gunshots rending the air toward the Subaru Forester. The yet to be identified injured man is receiving treatment at Thika Level 5 hospital.
Wa saa 9 kamili hapo tulipata ripoti kutoka kwa wananchi weba kwa hii area ya kwa Cairo kwamba kuna mtu amepigwa risasi akiwa kwenye gari akiendesha maeneo ya kwa Cairo. Tuliweza kutuma askari, wakafika hapo na wakapata kuna gari moja ya Subaru Forester ambaye ilikuwa na mtu ambaye ni mwanaume, na alikuwa amepigwa risasi akiwa ameumia, lakini alikuwa bado ako hai, na kwa hivyo tulikimbiza yeye Thika, anaendelea kupokea matibabu. Hakuna habari kamili tumeipata, kulingana na wale wameshuhudia, wamesema tu waliona kwamba walisikia mlio wa risasi, na wakati waliangalia wakaona kuna gari imeyumba kwa barabara ikaenda kando, na wakati wakaangalia kuna mtu ambaye amepigwa risasi. So tulituma ofisa wamchukua mkimbiza hospitali, kwa sasa anaendelea kupata matibabu hospitali ya Thika Level 5.
Tukasikia mlio wa risasi kwa highway. Kuangalia tukaona hiyo gari ilikuwa gari ya white, ilikuwa ina lose control. Sasa kukakaa tukakimbia hapo, tukapata gari imeanguka side ya left. Watu wakakuja wengi juu hata ile kitu tulikuwa tunashindwa ni kama ni risasi ama ni miguu imetoboka.
Now, the family of security consultant Mwenda Mbijiwe, who went missing 11 days ago, now suspects foul play in the disappearance of their kin. A meeting that lasted 6 hours between his mother, Jane Mbijiwe, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, that is George Kinoti, at the DCI headquarters on Kiambu Road, that is on Monday. Jane Mbijiwe expressed her worry regarding the slow pace of investigations. On Monday, Mbijiwe's sister Tamara Mbijiwe confirmed that even after the meeting with the DCI, the family is still in the dark about his whereabouts. And to health, the COVID-19 second dose administration exercise is set to resume. That is today morning. This is after the country received close to 360,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from Denmark Monday night. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
After halting the exercise last week and the vaccination centers remaining deserted, there's a dim light at the end of the tunnel as the second dose administration exercise is set to resume 7 a.m. Wednesday morning. This is after the country received close to 360,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from Denmark Monday night.
Started off with about 1.2 million doses, and so far we have already used up all the vaccines. We only have 5,000 vaccines remaining, and we are very sure that those are going to be used in the next coming days. So had we not received this donation today, we would basically be having no vaccines in the next few coming weeks.
The Ministry of Health says the arrival of the vaccines is expected to boost the ongoing second dose vaccination exercise. As of Monday, at least 192,000 people had received their second dose, with a total of 1,187,663 doses administered. Meanwhile, governors from the Lake region are pleading with the national government to allow counties to import their own COVID-19 vaccines in a bid to contain the spread of the virus in the region.
Again, we were allowed as counties to import vaccines, even working with our development partners. We are prepared to do so. So we are appealing through this media to the national government or Ministry of Health to listen to our cry.
This comes days after frustrated Kenyans and medics protested on social media that despite getting messages on their phones to go for their second dose, hospitals across the country reported there being no vaccine supplies. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
And now, governors from the Lake Region Economic Bloc now want the Health Ministry to allow county governments to conduct rapid COVID-19 tests to limit the spread of the virus. And as Musa Salah now reports, the governors have recommended the enforcement of further restrictions to contain the deadly Indian Delta variant.
Governors from the 13 COVID-19 hotspot counties have questioned the national government's capacity to conduct nationwide tests for COVID-19, raising concerns over the spread of the deadly Indian Delta variant, which according to health experts is fanning the third wave of the virus. In a consultative meeting to deliberate on the way forward in containing the virus in the region, the governors have recommended the restriction of movement in and out of the 13 counties, as well as limit interactions in social gatherings.
The most effective way of stemming the pandemic is to consider a circuit breaker in the form of lockdown in the Lake Region hotspot to control the spread. Well worked out strategy to limit movement of persons, while at the same time appreciating the need to maintain economic activity.
Earlier last week, The government revised the COVID-19 restrictions in the COVID-19 hotspot zone, further discouraging movement in and out of the 13 counties. According to the Lake Region Economic Bloc, the number of infections in the region in the last 1 week increased from 1,589 cases to 2,171 cases, accounting for 16.1% of the total confirmed cases in the country. In the last 24 hours, 583 people tested positive for COVID-19, totaling the number of cases in the country to 179,876. The counties of Siaya, Kisumu and Kericho, which are among the 13 counties, recorded high numbers in the daily update by the Ministry of Health. 85 more people have recovered, totaling the number of recoveries to 123,050, as 24 others succumbed to the virus. Governors from Nyanza and some parts of Western now want the Mutahi Kagwe-led ministry to allow county governments to conduct rapid COVID-19 tests before being confirmed by KEMRI to contain the disease.
The capacity for our national government to test all the Kenyans on COVID-19, we must all agree that that capacity does not exist at the moment. So it is incumbent upon the Ministry of Health to allow rapid tests to be undertaken as a first step, because once the rapid test actually identifies that you have COVID, even before a confirmation is done through a substantive test, either through KEMRI, Kisumu or other areas, at least that particular person should start the initial treatment.
We are appealing to the national government or Ministry of Health to listen to our cry. Kilio cha wananchi who want to know their status so that we can intervene much more accurately as counties.
On Monday, Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Mercy Mwangangi asked the 13 county governments to increase their hospital bed capacities and oxygen stocks ahead of the anticipated surge in COVID-19 cases in the region. Musa Salah, TV 47.
And now let's shelve matters held for a moment. And members of parliament are yet to receive salary and other allowances, including mileage. However, the clerk of the National Assembly, Michael Tialai, says there has been a technical hitch which has been resolved, as Elizabeth Mutuko reports.
Members of Parliament are yet to receive their May salaries. MPs have also disclosed that have not received their mileage allowances and other allowances.
Issue, this is not the first time where we've had delays in mileages and allowances. We've had this issue for the last 2 years, where members, when they apply for allowances or mileages, instead of taking 1 week, it takes 2 weeks. Now of late we've seen that it is almost taking 3 weeks or maybe even a month. So we've had, the government is trying to manage, because sometimes we get communication from the clerk of the National Assembly saying that they have discussed.
Members of Parliament have not received the mileage and other allowances, and some members, including myself, went on a trip for Parliament and was never paid until I came back, and it was paid a week after I came back. So, and a lot of the members of Parliament that are going on these trainings and trips abroad are actually going there without money. And they go there, they look like they don't know what they're doing, because they can't even pay for their hotels until they have to look for money from this other end for them to pay for those hotels, because they've not received their allowances. And that has been happening, I think, for the last 2 months, that members are going without. Currently, members who have made claims on mileage have not been paid, and other allowances, both sitting and the chamber allowances, have not been paid.
However, the employer, through the clerk of National Assembly, Michael Sialai, says there has been a technical hitch in releasing the funds from Treasury. Sialai, however, says the issue has been resolved. The MP is keen not to blame Parliament for the delay of their salaries, but attributing this to hardships brought by COVID-19, which might have led the government being broke and unable to cater for its basic needs.
We are suffering, my brother. As I stand here today, I have to declare, I've been fueling and servicing a government vehicle from my pocket because there's no money. It is that sad. And so as we talk here about the salaries of the MPs, me, I'm afraid I've not even gone to the bank to check anything. Today is what date? It is 22nd of June. And there is this outcry that, especially the workers that support us, we have support staff. Every MP has got some support staff. Majority of them, we have not been given money to pay them. And for several months. Now, this is also tricky.
MPs are now calling for fast-tracking of their salaries and mileages which their aides depend on, with some forced not to travel to their respective constituencies for what they termed as lack of money.
So it's not been easy. It's like a cat and mouse game. And the Speaker communicated that there will be payments today, but up to this hour, there hasn't been I haven't received mine, so there hasn't been any payment so far. We hope that probably tomorrow there'll be some payment.
Government and the Minister for Treasury should put all the effort to ensure that there is smooth operations, particularly in institutions like Parliament, Judiciary, Security. I think that is very key, so that we don't go slow in implementation or meeting the obligations that are expected from us by the public.
Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Nairobi.
Now, Jubilee Party has been instructed to include the entire NASA coalition in its ongoing talks of a coalition. And now, Jubilee Deputy Secretary General, that is Joshua Kutuni, says the talks are still on despite a split within the NASA coalition, as Paul Kirobi reports.
After a series of meetings between section of Jubilee leaders and their ODM counterparts, the two parties seems to be open for more talks towards a 2022 pre-coalition agreement. However, Jubilee Deputy Secretary General Joshua Kutuni says the ruling party has been directed to work with NASA as a team and not singling out ODM.
President mentioned about NASA, and the way I understand, NASA is a coalition of around four or five political parties. So the misconception that is there that we are engaging ODM alone is wrong.
There has been a split within the NASA coalition with accusations and counter-accusations. Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka has already said he will not work with ODM's Raila Odinga, while ANC's Musalia Mudavadi accused Odinga of failing to honor the NASA agreement.
And even if we come with Jubilee, Jubilee is just outgoing. So why should they give us a presidential candidate again? Oh, honestly, answer me. That's a good question, but then let me put it in terms of a question again. We need change. Like me, I'm leading Migori County on the platform of transformational change.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party is said to be planning to sign a pre-election coalition deal with ODM. The handshake coalition has been termed as a plan to block Deputy President William Ruto from ascending to the House on the Hill next year.
Forming a coalition, those are not coalitions. Coalitions are serious vehicles. There must be lawyers and counsel. There must be preamble. There must be how to merge the manifesto and the aspiration of different parties.
Deputy President William Ruto has already hinted at vying on a UDA ticket. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you, Paul, for that story. That forms the basis of our conversation this morning. We have ODM members, Jubilee members. I don't want to say members. Okay, well, Jubilee members, because there are three. Though some of them, they say they are there just physically, but everything mentally, psychologically, they are in UDA. And we also have an ODM member in the House. And so this conversation will definitely be one that will be expounded on as expected, because then we hear it from the horse's mouth. One, whether as members they are in for this conversation of a merger, and whether the Jubilee members are equally happy to welcome the ODM party to work with them, and then what this would mean for the NASA principles. Remember, there's still a coalition, or that is there. That is the NASA coalition. No official communication has been given to us as to whether the coalition has been disbanded or not, and whether then the same coalition heads to the next polls together. So this is a conversation that is worth having, as we have been told that there's been secret talks by the NASA coalition principals, the other NASA coalition principals, just to see whether they are going to, work together, or whether they're going to join this merger that speaks of Jubilee and ODM. These revelations are here again, that there are likelihoods that we're going to have these individuals working together, and the request for Jubilee, or coming from Jubilee, is the fact that maybe they'd want for them to work together. That is to have the other NASA coalition, principals join the bandwagon. So the conversation is going to be a healthy one as we get to understand what goes into these agreements of coalitions, what goes into these agreements of alliances or the mergers, and whether the politicians are bright, or way brighter than what it was in the previous occasions. Remember, it is actually a learning process, because, well, after single party system to multi-partyism, it appeared as though it's multi-partyism in the face of, single, different parties. But then again, as time, happens and, things evolve, you realize that we have gotten to a space where most of the people will prefer working under coalitions as opposed to, an individual working with one party. The likelihoods of, people who are fronting their candidates under coalitions are higher in comparison to those ones that go it by themselves. And so this is indeed a conversation that is worth having, and that's what we'll be doing. The gentlemen that are here with us this morning, Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Hey, today we are so happy with members of Parliament. If you look at the newspapers, and I hope it sticks to that, for once, the argument on ground is that at least you have considered Wanjiko and you fought for Wanjiko, and we evidently can see from the aspect of, the proposals of the budget, and now you say, you know what, we're not going to go Yatani's way. Whether it sticks or not, you will be telling us, and therefore we are happy to have you this morning as we engage on that. Anthony Ikonya, Member of County Assembly, Kiambu Ward. Karibu sana Mahesh. Yeah. Good to have you this morning. Why are you laughing? Is it because you think whatever it is that I've said does not hold salt in any way? Aren't you happy?
I am.
That for once we're looking at the newspaper and we're getting good news.
For the first time in a very long time, we're looking to some good news.
Yes.
We used to crazy headlines in this country, but I'm really happy with my brother here today. I don't know whether he still sits in the budget committee.
He will tell us.
But I'm really impressed with what they're doing. Those changes in the finance bill to make sure that we make life easier for Wanjiko. I think it's something, and I'm happy that he's here, and I am now sitting between two gentlemen, and I don't know why you placed me here. So you really need to
we could have punches
keep
here.
an eye on me, because there could be punches between these two gentlemen. So I hope I'm safe.
I don't think the topics today are as heated, and therefore no cause for alarm, right?
Oh, okay.
No cause for alarm. Eric Ragalu, how are you?
I'm okay.
Political analyst, asante sana for creating time. Jana ulikuwa wapi? We were supposed to have you yesterday.
Work.
Yeah,
I
that's
got an
fine.
Emergency, and I had to run to theater. And but I'm here today.
Yes.
And the huduma kwa wananchi.
Asante.
Yes.
We're happy to have you. Jimmy Kagoni, emerging market strategist. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Jimmy too was to be here with us yesterday, but then again equally sent his apologies, and I'm glad that they sent apologies in action, because they're here with us this morning. And the conversation is straight. The last story that we have carried, this in regards to coalitions and whether they are a fix or they are a fit for a majority of leaders who conglomerate, who come together to form these coalitions, to form these alliances. So that is one of the key things that has been captured on the papers. I don't want us to delve into that just yet, before we appreciate waheshimiwa once more for at least speaking on behalf of the common mwananchi, evidently speaking from at least what it is that we see. Contrary to what we've always seen, we always call them our representatives, but there's a general feeling that sometimes they really don't represent us as expected. Honorable Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, James Gakuya, once again good to have you. just what culminated, as Honorable Ikonya would ask, do you still sit in the Budgets Committee?
Thank you, Rita. Allow me to salute the viewers wherever they are watching us from. And coming to your question, let me say that I was one of those casualties
that was swept by the Jubilee badge.
Who met the Jubilee badge. And therefore, I wasn't lucky.
Okay.
I wasn't lucky enough to secure my position in budget. But notwithstanding, as a member of parliament, I have no any barrier to sit on any committee as a friend of committee.
Yeah.
So I have that freedom and privilege to enjoy being a member of, a friend of any single committee in the House. And coming to the issues to do with what is in our newspapers headlines, I would say that this is not the first time the parliament has been working to see Wanjiku is not on the offside.
Yeah.
And let me say that in fact most of the time that even when you see things going the other way, it is where there is a lot of pressure and numbers where does not meet. Because in most of the time you realize that in the tradition in the House, at any single proposal there is a vote, and you may not be lucky to have the numbers.
Yeah.
Therefore, there may be a number of sympathizers to Wanjiku, but sometimes you get that in fact you get defeated by the numbers in the House. So that does not mean that there are those sympathizers of Wanjiku from the beginning till to now. But I am happy that majority now of that election, that Wanjiku is totally pinned down to a level that in fact the burdens have been too much and extraordinary to him. And therefore, the feeling is that the life is going to be totally hardcore, and some of the Kenyans will not be able to be able to give themselves a packet of a milk or a bread in their on their homesteads. And this particular case, that is why this particular finance bill is facing that kind of acts, because the proposals to make increment in those particular areas of those commodities, it seems to be totally against the wish of Wanjiku and totally against the will of the kind of high taxes that Wanjiku is facing. And therefore, it is totally extremely above the levels the Wanjiku can control. And it's of opinion that, yes, the government may wish to go that direction, but the House is there to make sure that it casts the doubts and make sure that it makes proper wishes to the people. Because I believe that the Treasury cannot be able to do or to work on its own, and that is how the Constitution envisages that in fact the House has proper mandate to make sure that it controls the budget and other elements of areas of taxes that comes in, and it is through the approval of those kind of proposals which gives the Treasury power to move on with their proposals. And at the point we are in, leader, I am reading from the body language of the members that none of them is willing Wanjiku to be extra taxed in the manner that the proposals are.
Well, good thing, to be honest, Honorable Ikonya, but probably a drop in the ocean. And is there reason for us to be excited by this move coming from members of parliament? We also understand that even as they reduce on this end, there are a couple of other things that equally the common mwananchi would consume or would use or would seek services from that have also been revised upwards.
No, it's good to be fair, and I think one, it leaves a lot to be desired. It leaves quite a lot to be desired, but they've begun somewhere. At least we've begun somewhere. And what I would address myself to this morning is the tax that Tani had proposed to add, and especially on some very basic things. For example, when you talk of motorcycles, when you talk of bread, those are the basic things that the common mwananchi survive on. If you talk of boda sector, that is what has employed quite a number of our young people. And when you talk of bread is a staple food of almost virtually almost everyone of us here. So many people live on bread every single day. So when you propose to increase a tax on bread, do you remember the bread revolution? I don't know whether you've read about the bread revolution.
Yes, revolution.
So when the government decides to add tax and especially on things like bread, I think is really unfortunate. But Linda, as well, as you said, there are so many things. You know, we need to address ourselves to the whole tax regime. By saying that, I'm saying we need to look at the high-end people who are making, and I've given you examples, a couple of examples. Look at counties, for example. When you talk about ounces of revenue, where you get your revenue from, you realize that the government will tax the small traders, the common mwananchi. But look at estates that are running coffee for about 20 acres of coffee, 30 acres of 100 acres of tea and whatever. What do they pay? They don't. Very minimal, you know. So we need to address our task concerns. And that's what we're talking about, building an economy that is bottom up, you know, so that we so that we look at these tax needs, you know, and not really put the burden on these young people, and look at ways upon which we can. And you see, basically, the problem that this country has is not even tax, is how the money collected is used. If we reduce on waste, if we reduce on, we able to arrest people who are corrupt and have them prosecuted, we will be saving quite a lot. So I agree with members of parliament, and I want to hope that they will carry it through. I also want to hope that because we are edging close to the election, this is not triggered by that. So it's a good start. We have started somewhere at least, but leaves a lot to be desired.
All right, gentlemen. On that very note, Eric, the fact that we're having members of parliament now officially speaking, well, that's what they've been doing in regards to the budget, and we expected them to debate on this extensively, and these proposals that they make, but equally, those ones that are to be revised upwards are as good as things that we also use. The internet today, I'll tell you for free, is one thing that numerous peoples or numerous Kenyans, get there to earn a living. This is a time and age where making phone calls is as good as, almost like a daily requirement. And therefore, even if you are to, zero the rates of these other commodities and, revise this upwards, is there really anything that we're doing?
Thank you, Linda. I wish to tell you that there's one thing that I've learned in life. Do we treat a symptom or do we treat a disease?
Okay.
We had a disease called Jubilee government that was brought by Ikonya and my friend Gakuya.
And Jimmy.
And Jimmy was there.
Okay.
And he's still there.
And then you joined this disease.
We have
you joined.
Just listen. What they did when the government came in, they went into borrowing spree. And they borrowed for I would say for nothing. I'll give an example. Why would you borrow to make a road? What do you need? That is a symptom management.
Okay.
When you want to treat management of congestion in Nairobi, what do? Grow other towns. Okay. Make sure that those towns can uplift themselves. Stoppage of influx of people in Nairobi is the treatment of a disease. So we overborrowed. We came to a point when we would tell them, they would say, we are making noise, we don't want Jubilee to work. Right now, we are happy.
Point of order.
Right now, we are happy that Jubilee has reduced taxes. The Jubilee government and parliamentarians are happy now.
Can he react to that, and then you come in here?
Linda, I'm sure that, in fact, my friend is not forgetting that before handshake, the former Prime Minister was very vocal in matters to do with watchdog to whatever government has been doing. But immediately after handshake, wasn't the same master, the one who accompanied the head of state to go borrowing to China.
In China.
Then what is the fellow telling us today?
Okay.
It was then they came in to cure, or they came in to spend more.
Just to add on what Mheshimiwa has said, he's a doctor and he's a guy I respect, and he's coming in some medical terms. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, fine. If the Jubilee government was sick, then in terms of you get to the medical world, I'm looking at it like we've had different variations of the COVID-19. I think ODM came in with the Indian one So
Okay.
basically, that's
Within the government. To rub it Jubilee more.
What I was trying to say is they overborrowed, and most of the money we lost. Too many scandals, over 21 scandals during the Jubilee administration. Call them, there are too many. From Eurobond and what have you, we lost a lot of money. The problems we are undergoing today is because of the lost money. To an extent that we heard that we are losing around $1 billion per day, or I don't know,
2 billion.
2 billion per day. So who are losing this? Which government was losing this? Was it ODM? So how do they cure this disease so that you don't lose this money?
All right.
So that is where we should go to an extent where we want to raise a syringe, a 16% tax of a syringe. You're going to prick someone in a hospital. I'm giving you, for example, one patient. How many syringes does one patient in ICU uses? By the time you're going 24-hour clock, you're going to tax 16% for over 50 syringes in a day for one person? Are we smoking hay? I'm sorry to use that word. Anyway, going there, they are saying, the MPs, that they don't want us to be taxed this much. Okay? Why aren't they increasing the taxation on importers of sugar?
Okay.
Why are they reducing the percentages of VAT of importation of sugar? If they want to save the farmer, the sugar farmer, then why aren't they reducing the sugar? The other question is, when they reduce this, so where are we going to get money to cover the deficit that is going to happen here?
Okay.
These people should not play politics. It's looked like now they feel Wanjiku is very important. Why wasn't Wanjiku important 5 years ago? Why wasn't Wanjiku important when he was sitting in the budgetary committee?
But we agree that if at this point then they've realized that Wanjiku is important and they do something that is going to be
You realize your kids are important when they are malnourished, about to die. Then you want to give them ugali.
If you can save them, why not?
If you can save them, why not? They cannot eat, their stomach is already shrinked.
Jimmy, not Jimmy Gaguya, Jimmy Gagoni.
Before Jimmy,
all right.
Just allow me to interject. Just a single concern. What was the essence of this handshake, for sure? If this handshake was not even to help those areas of vacuum, those areas that the fraternity of opposition was fighting government not attaining, then up to date, then they are in a major preparation. It means that you guys, you are totally settled and you don't care with whatever is happening inside and already compromised.
Jimmy, at least you and I.
And if that is the case,
you'll answer that.
I'll answer you on that. But first to stick to the budget issues, and I wish to give it a different, and good morning viewers. I wish to give it a different perspective. Don't think that Ukule Atal never knew that the MPs are going to reject this thing.
Okay.
And in fact, you can see like it was deliberately put there, the bread, which is quite a basic commodity, the boda, which is quite a huge sector that is serving the people that are down there. You see, when you are making this kind of, when you know that you're actually meeting somebody that you're going to negotiate with, you try to put things that you know that you can do away with so that his attention is diverted from the main issue to this one.
Okay.
Where now we are already obsessed with the discussion that the MPs have got it with the UNGA, with the boda and all that. The question is, where is the attention should be? Which exactly area are we really missing? Because that is very, very critical. If you check, and I think you had asked that question before, we are talking of a budget that has a deficit of 1 trillion as we speak. If you check on exactly the 16% and how much you would have raised from there, let me tell you, it's not even 1% of the deficit. So that means the other proposals that are there might actually be the key issue where the MPs should actually concern themselves in and not really about the UNGA and all that. Let's do away with that one, but ask ourselves, could there be something that we are not really seeing? Because now the attention has been taken from that angle. Number 2, which are the products and commodities that get into the bracket of what we call the zero-related products? It's either first is a very basic commodity, 2 is a necessity that cannot be afforded by quite a number of people, 3 is a product that is not really homegrown, or it's quite foreign, and therefore we really need to, like for instance, there are some medicine and what have you and all that, like COVID related medicine and other areas that we'd say like that one is zero rated, and anything that is actually coming to be beneficial to the country, but it's not really from a commercial perspective. Those are the products that we really say they should get into the bracket of zero rated. Brand and unga would actually qualify into that, into the zero rated.
Zero rated, okay.
Yes, because it's a basic commodity, and especially if you check now the period we are even in, the COVID period, and all you want is just to feed yourself, not even generate wealth or do many other things. It's just to have something for yourself. And that's very critical. So that really qualifies. In fact, if you have to argue it from that angle, what are the products that really qualify to get to be zero rated, then they already qualify up to there. But my concern is that, and I wanted to urge the honorable member who is here with us, to even speak to his colleagues to check, could there be something that we are not seeing, and we are obsessed with this attention, yet how do we really raise the 1 trillion? In fact, are there other proposals that could be very dangerous to the country, which we really need to check on?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, really important. You were supposed to answer, Mheshimiwa, on what really, but then again, let's have Honorable Ikonye come in. Really a good concern that, well, the handshake came and this gentleman came in, they are in bed with government, and therefore there's really nothing much that the people are getting apart from peace, which they ride in. But should we always be looking at that? I mean, why have we been reduced to, the political interest of individuals and what it is that they come to bring and everything? Or then this is a sheer confirmation of the fact that politics runs everything, and therefore we are at the mercy of these people. Can we be having a conversation right now of the fact that, we're pointing a finger at Right Honorable Raila Odinga, things are not moving smooth because you came into the handshake? Is that what really we elected?
No, thank you, Linda. It's good to accept that we started going south when they came in. That's a fact.
Okay.
And the beauty of ODM is that
how is that supposed to be the common Mwananchi's problem?
I'm getting there. The beauty of ODM is that they are well mannered, very well mannered. They understand that, and they know very well etiquette, that you don't speak with food in your mouth. So they've kept quiet because they have food in their mouth. So be that as it may, it is not the concern of the common Mwananchi of the political groupings. But again, Linda, the reason why we have a manifesto, the reason why you go to the people with a manifesto is because you want them to believe that this is the way we are going to run government. So the people who voted in Jubilee on the belief of this is what they're going to do, and this is going to work for us. All right? The reason why I'm telling you that things went south when these people came in is because they joined in our manifesto. They were supposed to keep check of government. Okay. In a deal situation, that's what it's supposed to happen. But anyway, Linda, politics happen everywhere, everywhere, including in churches and everywhere.
And this one that you talk about, the fact that you're going to give us a bottoms-up approach, and you chickened out after ODM came in, and therefore you decided that, well, to hell with those projects, we are chickening out. What gives you the confidence that we're going to trust that next time?
We did not chicken out.
You have chickened out, because when you speak of 2022, yet we're still here, and we have a manifesto that you are supposed to, deliver on. And I mean, how best can you explain that?
One thing you should understand is that there's a president in this country who is the leader, and the constitution is very clear that the deputy president will be in delegated roles. Delegated from the president.
From the president.
Right? So if he doesn't delegate anything for you, and he no longer involves you, what do you do?
The same constitution opens a window of us, raising concerns, such concerns that are crucial, that are really important. Have they been raised enough, Eric?
I want to tell Ikonye that parliamentary system says there is no opposition. There is a leader of majority and minority in the government. So basically what you should understand is that ODM has been in the government. And no one is out the government. Okay. We were there during Moi's time.
All right. So you're trying to justify
yes, which is true, not justification, which is true. What we were doing that time, we were forcing them to do things because they could not think straight, because they had too much corruption in their hand, too much money around. So right now, we decided to join it thoroughly and inside it properly.
And out of it,
so
nothing
what happened? Ikonye ran away, and Mheshimiwa here ran away, and me and my friend here told me, "Come, we work together."
Okay.
And we are there working together. That does not mean we don't check the government. We actually check by helping the government. the development that have happened in Nyanza, in Western, in Kisii, and many other parts. These guys, even here in Gikondi, a village, they even have a road in a village. A tarmac road in a village.
Yeah, you're talking about central region?
Yes,
central
I'm
Kenya.
even giving you a village called Gikondi.
Okay.
They even have a road.
Where is Gikondi, by the way? Where is Gikondi?
Gikondi is in your place.
Where exactly?
That should be careful. Maybe at a guess, eh?
And I would want somebody to really help us in this, Linda.
Yes.
First of all, I would actually want to understand what is bottom-up economy. That is a new theory. I've never come across it. I would really want to understand what is bottom-up economy.
Okay. Can you check tea?
And number two.
Can you check tea today? I'll take you through.
And number two.
After this, you'll have understood the concept.
It's very.
All right.
Let me tell you. When I listen to the members of Tanga and the associated UDA members, they want to appear like they are really telling the Mwananchi that we are the alternative to this. Many of them, as you speak, Linda, are already serving members. I have not seen them suggest any alternative as it is now, yet they have that opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
For instance, when the government was actually releasing the series of the borrowing from the 5 trillion all the way to where we are today, I want to see the list of members who are there who said that we are opposed to this and they actually voted no to that. Number two, because we cannot be speaking from the two sides of our mouth. You see, we are aware that literally this country has really been borrowing, that's for sure. But I also want to see when the honorable member, Wanagakuya, Ikonya, and others, the roads that are being constructed in their constituencies and in their respective wards, when they said, we do not want this road because it is being built by borrowed money. Because we cannot be saying that here when we come to your show, Linda, but when we have the opportunity, I cannot be the beneficiary, yet when you are doing exactly what you're doing, that's when I want to shout. Let me tell you, the truth of the matter is, I have not seen that alternative they are actually suggesting, that's for sure. I have not seen that alternative that they have been suggesting.
Okay.
And they are the beneficiaries from the CDF money, from the World Fund money, and from other developments that are there, that are taking place. For instance, like where he is referring, that word that is called Gekondi, if there is a word that is called Gekondi, where there is a road maybe passing from point A to point B. That road has been constructed by borrowed money.
Okay.
I didn't see the MCA from that place saying, we do not want this road because it's been built by borrowed money.
Okay.
That's exactly how you stand. You say, I know the road is important, but I also know the burden of the common Mwananchi. So therefore, we are willing to give away the road so that we also don't carry the burden. But you can't. You cannot.
So that means then, in as much as there's so much borrowing, reality is that these projects that are being conducted are of the benefit of the common Mwananchi, and therefore we cannot run away from them because
that should actually be the alternative. That should actually be the
Honorable Gakuya, we come to you.
What we've been looking at, it's good to be very honest, and I want to answer my good friend here. We do not fault government for borrowing. What they put that money for is what we fault. The question has always been, what is the economic viability of borrowed money doing this? All right? We asked, for example, when you do a railway, for example, what is the roadmap in terms of when is it going to repay itself? What is the economic viability that justifies you borrowing that money? All right, that has always been the question.
But you see, you also agree that long term,
even if be that as it may, but you see, even when you go to borrow in the bank, you don't go borrow money to go for safari in Naivasha.
In Naivasha, that's true.
Yes, you borrow money, you put it into business, and you have a repayment schedule, and this is how.
And you think the government has not looked into that?
They have not told us. Remember the last time we saw in the papers, last time I was here, we were being told, Parliament was telling us, government is not giving us a clear strategy of how they intend to pay these loans.
All right.
Alongside the document that presented,
let's supposed to come in.
He's not supposed to be told. He is in the government.
Okay. And
he's supposed to know.
To explain.
In fact, he should tell me who has lost an election twice. Okay. He should tell me, because me, I have to look for it to get it. Him, he doesn't look for it. He gets it, it is there.
Haven't you told us in government? You already
he's part of the government as ODM.
And the ones who are left.
All right. Honorable Gakuya, please don't be silent as such. And here we are. Just what is the bottoms-up approach that would be an alternative to what we have right now?
Rida, sincerely, first and foremost, let me also chip in the debate which has been almost closing. And agree that actually one thing, we are very busy borrowing, but we are not good we are not prudent in using the resources we borrow. Yeah. And number two, we make a very serious mistake. We borrow and put that money into recurrent expenditure, which is too bad and that is not the intention of borrowing. Intention of borrowing is purely you borrow money for development, but not money for recurrent expenditure. Number two, let us agree on one thing. Why are we always in the paths of borrowing? That means we are not doing any saving in our cohorts. That's why we depend on borrowing. Yeah. At what juncture is this country going to do saving on its own, so that it starts depending on its own, or forever it should be a beggar or a begging country for any single development? Because if you can assess the developments we are talking about, 99% of those projects are borrowed money. It tells you that whatever we does harness from within our area of jurisdiction is nowhere close to finance our budget. Then where are we going wrong? Because we cannot be forever dependent of loans. And number two, these loans that we are depending on, we are even unable to repay. Why? Because once and foremost, during our planning, we do what we call escalation of prices, like SGR. SGR, we have an equivalent SGR in Tanzania, which is being done in less than half money that the Kenya is utilizing. And they are using the same materials we are doing. And they are not depending on borrowing. They are using their domestic collection. That is why we are going wrong as a nation. Because we are borrowing and we are happy of this money, we are happy of this project, but are we happy with what we are topping up as trillions and trillions of loans? And how are we moving to manage those trillions? Because surely time will come to an end. But whoever will take over is coming to take up a burden that is extraordinary. Why is it coming to start?
Why the excitement? Why the excitement? Because we still see these people, excited about taking over. You don't want to take over an economy that is left as a shell. You don't want to take over an economy that is on its knees. Why the excitement?
Leader will just tell you, whoever will just come, we will start from somewhere like where Kibaki started. And let me tell you, it tells you that in fact there is no miracle, that immediately we will be able to muscle resources within and be able to propel. And therefore, he also be part of the bed on those roads.
Realistically speaking,
at some stage,
realistically speaking, we are collecting about 1 point something.
We are collecting
1.7.
Yes.
Against a budget of 3.6. Honestly,
yes.
Even if we're saying that this person is going to come and help us propel, how soon? And let's be realistic, as you also, you don't want us to get to a scenario where we're excited about the roads. We're excited about borrowing just because we're getting these small roads into the different villages and all that, or the county assemblies. Not keen to understand how best we are able to repay this in.
You see, that's what I'm trying to say. And I would want us to get deeper into this because it's an important discussion for the country. One of the largest sector in the world is the lending business. That's why we have the banking sector everywhere across. That means, that tells you it really propels the economy of the world, one way or the other. But now let's come into how that relates to the government. I would have expected the people who are very uncomfortable with borrowing, not just to really complain about it and whine about it and say no to it, come up with an alternative. And that's what I really want to hear. When I hear that, then I'll be very persuaded to actually join that movement. Come up with an alternative and say, can we change our tax policy to make them like those ones of Dubai, UAE, and elsewhere, where actually now we are changing, for instance, the custom duties, where you do not really charge the imports of goods, but you only charge when they are actually transacted within the country. What exactly are we suggesting? Well, it is true, we don't borrow we have a huge deficit that goes to around 47%. That is the money that we are talking about here. It's 46, which is really very dangerous up to there, by the way. We shouldn't be borrowing to the levels of 40 plus percentages. But the question is, what is the alternative to that? For instance, if you check the countries that have really grown and they have really changed, it's because they worked on their tax policy. And they changed it. And maybe it's time now we check on our tax policy and realize maybe it hasn't been serving us. Because through the tax policy is where you use as the basis of how you generate the wealth for the country. So that now we can see whether we can move from just being an import economy to an export economy. That's the challenge that we have there. But as it is now, we are only pointing fingers and saying no to it without really suggesting which is the other which is the alternative to this. I want to give you an example of two economies that have really managed, the ones that we call the emerging economies that have really done very well. If you check like an economy like let's say India, and how they really changed, how they really converted themselves to actually become a manufacturing economy. You see, they realized that what we really consume is really taking much of our money here. And while we consume it, and by the way, India is not very favorable in a number of things, so you can be sure that 60% of the basic commodities that they really require there, they actually import it. They actually import from outside. So they decided just to concentrate on 4 industries: the manufacturing, the technology, the health, a little bit of automobile, and a little bit of garments. I mean, the garments that come from India. They just decided to concentrate on that. And they said, these are the areas, how do we really now? Because 60% of what we consume here, we can only get it from outside because of the climate and other factors that are there. Then, how do we really do an exchange of that? We go to manufacturing. Exactly what we really want to manufacture, and exactly what can we take advantage of Africa and the proximity of other countries that are here. They decided, let's go to the technology. So the best softwares you see around here, we actually import them from India. The medicine and the health sector, we get it from India. The garments industry, it's quite huge for them. We also get it from India. And they also went to other small areas. The automobile, I mean, you have seen a few vehicles here and there that you see made in India. If I was hearing that kind of an alternative to say, we are really borrowing a lot because we do not have the technology to do the roads and many other things and those kind of things and all that. For instance, now we borrowed Linda. We borrowed a lot of money from, there was some grants that were given by World Bank to do the urban development. You have seen quite a number of towns that are doing the cabros and a lot of revamping that is being done, including Mheshimiwa's Ikonya's place, Kiambu, where the housing project, where you see that almost every pathway now has a cabro and all that. That was a grant that was given by the World Bank, all right? Which is important because it has improved the standards of Kiambu. So doing business and writing system and those kinds of things now can happen. The parking, now they can be able to get more money from areas they were not really taxing the parking areas and that kind of. It is important, and I'm sure he appreciates because this has actually been done during his tenure. He appreciates because it has really improved the standard, and I want to believe that that is actually one of the motivation that has given him to boost, to think that to actually see that he actually want to go for the member of parliament now for Kiambu.
Okay.
However, now that being the case,
and make it brief so that they can come in.
What you'd be just suggesting on the other side, as Mheshimiwa Ikonya, what you'd be suggesting is, how do we really now do an exchange of this? How do we really, what exactly do we suggest to the people?
Have you been keen enough to look at their proposal, the bottoms up approach?
There is nothing. It just is nothing.
Oh, you're asking? All right. Okay.
I've been adversely mentioned here, and I want to, for the first time, agree with Kagoni in this, in certain things. One, I think this time we address our tax regime, and I told you a very interesting thing last time here. For example, let's look at, because if a country like what Mheshimiwa Kakuya has said here, if you're not able to save as a country, if you do not have a backup plan, that will allow us to source money from within, then this country is going to...
Have we grown to a level where we can have a backup plan?
I'll give you an example. He said, let us look for solution, for example. Look at NHIF. How much do you pay for NHIF yourself? It's about 500 shillings per month, isn't it? But look at it. We said there was a proposal one time, let us get a certain percentage of what people earn and make it mandatory for NHIF. But then Aturi and the likes were all over saying, okay, let's fix some standard fees. They said for the common 190, let's put it at 500. For the other people at 1,700. Let me tell you what happens. If you look at 500 shillings for a person who earns about 6,000 in a month or 5,000 in a month, then you're talking about figures that will run to about 10, close to 10%. All right? But if you look at a person who earns 1 million and they're there in this country and 300,000, 400,000, if you look at the 1,700 shillings that they pay, is about less than 2% or even 1% or thereabout. But if you had fixed a certain rate, for example, you put it at 8%, then you'd have realized that the common man will still be paying about 300 shillings or 400 shillings or 500 shillings, while the person who earns 1 million and Mheshimiwa here who earns hundreds of thousands will be paying much more. And that money will help this country. All right?
Right.
Those are the issues that I now agree with Kagoni that we need to address. I also agree those grants that we get are very important. Like, for example, what you've gotten from World Bank. Because the idea is, the World Bank is telling us, which is a fact, that by the year 2030, then 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. So we need to develop enough infrastructure to make sure that by 2030, and as people, places become urbanized, then you're able to handle the sewer, we're able to handle the lighting and everything. To that extent, I agree. So I think what we just need to do is address our tax, the tax regime. What bottoms-up economy is proposing to do, because I was sitting with him today, and probably I'll buy you lunch, by the way. So, yes, because I need to explain things to him. Which is okay. No, we are friends. I'm not buying you for him. We are friends. Okay, so that I can explain to you what bottom-up is about those issues that I'm telling you. It's about the issues that you're saying here. That we need to address our tax regime and see what is it that we can do as a country to save enough to avoid borrowing from outside.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
Because if you, for example, borrow from NSSF kitty, for example, or you borrow from the NHIF kitty, what does that do? That when the government is repaying to an internal kitty,
local
that
borrowing,
again benefits its people. For example, the proceeds of that loan, or rather the interest that it gets, then if it's NSSF, then it goes to the people. Right? So that is how you develop an
money
economy.
circulating within ourselves.
Very
Local
good.
borrowing is one thing that, Eric, before I come to you, local borrowing is crucial, and we have gotten to conversations where, yes, we encourage that. And I mean, government has also come to Parliament and say, review this upwards and all that. But then where does it leave the SMEs? Where does it leave the common mwananchi? And not necessarily that one of NHIF or that proposal, but generally local borrowing, in our very own banks and all that, has left the SME struggling, because banks will always prefer to lend money to the government as opposed to a high risk that lies in an SME or lies in a common mwananchi. How can we balance that?
Linda, let me say this. This can only be done by a very understanding government in place, because it's only the message of the government which you feel message to the common mwananchi, and therefore not consider borrowing internally, and therefore consider borrowing externally. But you realize that in fact, also it's a lifetime sometimes where also our government is having some difficulties in also borrowing from outside, and therefore being left with no alternative but to move back to what we call internal borrowing. And I can tell you for sure, I can attest that in fact that's a very bad route to go, because our local banks actually, their demand is to lend to the government because of the security they enjoy. But because at least when we move to what we call Wanjiko, SME and those, it's a big struggle in terms of repaying and recovering back the lended money. But who should take the care of this small SME? It's only this elected government, because if the government fails to do that, then the SME are left on their own, and therefore nobody is there. Because I'm telling you, the bank lenders have no business, they have no interest. Their interest is to make sure that they accumulate their wealth and nothing else. Therefore, they cannot put the interest of Wajiko at any place. Yeah. It's only the government which is elected by the people who should be having mercy as a civilian government to its own people. But when the government forgets the interest of its own people, then its own people are left in what we call jungle, and therefore they live on their own. And in this particular case, I would say, yes, I do agree with my panelists that actually we need to have what we call our ways of preparing our economy on a different way and on a different approach. And one thing is that most of the countries outside there, they have adopted this PPP, and this PPP has been working well, because you got a road like Thika Road, which is a superhighway. Yeah. A superhighway, the government is not using a penny. What it does is just looking for an investor who will come and make sure that he does the job with a great rate and sum of money. And therefore, at the end of the day, they are greedy in a manner of how they bring back. And therefore, there is an election of what we call a toll station. And that toll station, everybody will be part of assisting payment or repayment of that particular road. Okay. Because every vehicle passes there, let us pay something little, and at the end of the day, this burden is shared, and therefore it becomes a shareable problem. And that way, I am telling you, we can move somewhere. Right. We have areas like flyover bridges elsewhere. Those are the things that actual terms which normally comes to the table, and therefore giving room for unnecessary borrowing, because this element of this kind of pressure to borrow. It comes because there is urge to do development.
Have you gone through the public debt management bill fronted by a member of parliament of Nambale, Bunyasis? Have you gone through it?
Well, they have gone through it. Only the problem he has is that, in fact, the bill might be so nice and so good, but the implementers are the big issue.
But just who is government, Eric, as you respond?
I'm quite surprised that my brother here is talking so nicely, and my brother here also. I want to remind them that Jubilee government didn't lose it. They were on the right track. Remember, Egypt survived, just listen, Libya survived because of oil. Many other countries, Kagoni has given a very good example of India, where even my phone here, it's a Xiaomi phone. Xiaomi is Indian phone. It's doing very well, and right now it's actually the second most selling phone in the world. Okay, so where am I coming in? We are an agricultural nation. They were doing very well. They wanted to bring us nice fertilizers. They wanted to do farming in Galana Kulalu. They wanted to give us good sugar. But what happened in their government? What happened in their government? They wanted to assist the economy of agriculture to rise. It would have spilled all over to other economies. But what happened? They brought fertilizers that were very, very bad, and burnt and killed all the maize or whatever people were putting in their farms. Galana Kulalu corruption is well known to everyone.
Yeah.
How many gunias did we get from there? Sugar came from Mexico within 1 week. I don't know whether that ship was flying on water. Maize scandal is not a story to forget.
Right.
We had aflatoxin maize, where many of us even died. People had yellow eyes, destroyed. And you see, the direct cancer to the liver is aflatoxin. Anybody who gets aflatoxin will definitely at one point in time get cancer of the liver. So what have you done to your nation? So you see, one problem catapulted to other problem, health sector, nini, you understand? So they were on the right track. But what develops this country is corruption and love of money, na ile tunaita umero na uroho kwa Kiswahili. You see everything, you see money. And you see money, you want to do anything possible to get more money. You don't even look at what happens to other people. We are not out of the woods. We've been trying to do it, only that one or few of us do the wrong. Our president was saying the other day, since I met Raila and we've been working with Raila, and he's been assisting me and giving me ideas of what to do, I can see the country moving forward. He said from himself.
Okay.
What happened? What does that tell you? Since I was with the other person, which I don't know his name, our country was not doing well.
Are we not Kenyans?
You are not Kenyans. You are not Kenyans. When Galana Kulalu corruption is high, you are not Kenyan.
Is it now or the previous
when you have sugar corruption, you are not Kenyan. When you have maize scandal, you are not Kenyan. You cannot be Kenyan when you are not destroying Kenya.
During your handshake, what have you done? Your membership has part of the corruption inside that particular business.
And you know you can't come here to tell yourself out of this. That's the sad thing.
Let me be the voice of reason here.
The infrastructure of your country, and you still say we are not Kenyan. We are talking about, you talked about salaries and what have you. How much do I earn? How much do Waheshimiwas earn?
Leader,
okay?
At the end of the day,
as much as Nagaro,
talking of bottom,
as much as Nagaro wants to taint the current government, he must put his finger inside.
But let's agree, Boshimiwa, that we voted the current government and not ODM, and therefore, if there's anyone to be questioned, should be the current government.
And what is their duty as an ODM?
Are they articulating their duty?
All right.
Are you articulating your duty?
You cannot have a
be the voice of reason here.
Let's allow Kagoni come in. He's been on make it 30 seconds.
I'm passing the baton to him. See, let me tell you something. Life is about results, all right? And every time you purport to be, for example, you work with this very good TV.
Yeah.
People out there, your family expect results. You don't just put in a very nice suit and you go, and then you don't come back with anything in the morning.
That's true.
You have to show results. So when a person tells you that since I started working with this person, things are better, and while we can see that is when they started becoming poor. That is when things went south. That is when people could not be able to put money in their pocket. And you're telling us about some. I agree with what Meshmukakwe here said, because let's talk about and what you said also as well. Let's talk about not talk about the ODM thing and what have you. Let's talk about the problems that are facing Kenyans. And one of the things that with private public partnership, one of the best things that I wanted to expound on so that people will get the beauty of it is that the people who pay for that project are the people who use it. You do not pass that burden to a person who is not using that product. What am I saying? That when you do a government borrows, all of us pay, the entire country pays. But you see, when you get to private public partnership, what will happen is, if you put a toll station, for example, it is only the user of that road that will pay for that road. You do not pass that burden to mama somewhere in the Nyuki or in those places. So I think that is the way we should be looking at things as opposed to
do we really have a problem of carrying other people's burden for as long as the nation is to benefit from it? Honestly, would you mind going an extra mile to service the Naivasha SGR if it is going to be of importance to the entire boost of the economy?
Linda, in an economy like ours, where the majority are low earners, low-income earners, you got to really ask yourself exactly what development do you really institute to change the lives of the people that down there. Let me tell you, Linda, the country with the best infrastructure development in Africa in terms of roads is actually Namibia. You'll actually be shocked. It's actually Namibia. Now, when you are looking for FDI, if you check the records and you want to see exactly the FDIs, the foreign direct investment that go there, you actually realize that for the last around 9 years, they have really been receiving a lot of money. A lot of it, actually. And the reason is because of that. Because any investor who is actually checking exactly which country to put their money into, they want to check now two things. First is the infrastructure development. Number two is the money policies in that country, how it is possible to do business in that country. And let me tell you, when we say how possible it is to do money in that, how easy it is to do business in that country, the aspect of how also the banks relate, the clearing dates and those kind of things and all that. And if there is one thing that we can actually give it to the treasury, by the way, I think this comes from the time of Kibaki all the way to where we are, is actually our treasury. It has really improved when it comes to money policies on how we move. Let me tell you, these small things of T+1 of clearing the checks and all that, they are very, very critical. Do you know, and I think I've said in your show before, last year, 2020, which was a very difficult year, across the globe. Do you know that the people we call the venture capitalists, the people who look for which businesses they can put their money into, in Africa, the largest country was actually Nigeria. Yet Nigeria is the most corrupt country. In corruption index, if you check it, is the most corrupt country.
It is.
They have oil cars and many other things that have really contributed into that. But why would I, as a venture capitalist, would I be still comfortable to actually take my money to Nigeria? It's because you're also checking the way they run their businesses and the infrastructure development that has actually been put into that country. I want to agree and with what my panelists are saying here. Maybe we need to check the public debt. But let's also look at it from a more objective angle to ask ourselves, and I know there is quite a lot of money that we are losing out to corruption and many other things and all that. But are the developments also where we are putting the money, are they really contributing to convert us from just being an import economy to more of an export economy? If the answer is yes, we should even do it more. Number two,
we have to take a quick break and then come back on that very note. Allow us to. Unless number two is going to be 30 seconds, which I know it won't.
Well, can I just tell people we are going to the break and coming back?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, that is 30 seconds.
Global Precast Panel panels. We have the best quality, durable and affordable precast panels to suit all your needs. Manufactured under a controlled environment, we have the best precast concrete panels, precast concrete floor slabs, precast concrete perimeter wall, precast concrete columns and beams. Our panels reduce construction cost by up to 40% with absolutely no plaster required, including added soundproof benefits. Convenient four-story buildings, schools, offices, residential houses, hospitals and warehouses. Take advantage of our free transport. Contact us on 0702 24 7267 or 0796 24 7267. Global Precast Panels Limited, your reliable option for efficient construction.
These are the sights and sounds of a working nation. There are no shortages to remarkable ideas. What's missing is the will to execute them.
You need to stay relevant. If you don't, you're going to fade off.
Yes, they are a dime in a dozen, but the real meat on these bones comes from trying to realize them.
You just need to perfect anything. If it's drawing, if it's music, pursue it 100% because it's something that is giving back.
Join me, Violet Njoki, as I tell you the stories of these executed ideas, because yours could be next. Mondays, 7:30 p.m.
Hey, now that's hitting the right notes. When life gets boring, we bring out our play. You see, playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we move and laugh. It's in the way we walk, the way we rock, and how we just don't stop. You feel me? We add color to everything, to every day and every dish, because the world needs our crazy. We're the different flavors that make life more exciting. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
Well, the speaker is neither here nor there.
I should have done my outro from here.
Yes, no.
And we're just like that. I look beautiful.
Tune in to Morning Cafe, Mondays to Fridays from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. with me, Linda Alela, only on TV47, the home of Untold Stories. Welcome back to the broadcast. Still with us this morning, James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, Anthony Ikonya, Member of County Assembly, Kiambu Ward, Kiambu Township Ward, and Eric Ragalo, political analyst, and lastly Jimmy Kagoni, emerging markets strategist. And I realized that we didn't even delve deep into the papers, which will not anyway. It's now time that we get into the conversation of the day, where we discuss the politics of coalitions, which is probably what forms the basis of what it is that we look at this time and age of politics. Barely about 12 months or 13 months into the general elections, so much is likely to culminate. We've already seen, individuals flexing their muscles with their respective parties, just trying to bargain on what next for them, what next for the country, and who's going to be the president, if at all there's going to be a president, and whether we're going to go for the BBI, that is the referendum conversation, or not. So much is likely to happen, in this short period, and therefore we have our eyes open. But before we get to the actual face of it all, it's important that we look at all these possibilities, and that's what we'll be discussing. So before we delve into that, let's close on that subject I hope, Jimmy, you still have your line in thoughts in order so that you can close it at that, and then we delve into the politics of coalitions.
Can you just give me a single second?
Okay, a second to wind up on that, to respond to Jimmy. All right, Jimmy, make it brief.
Can you maybe respond
before you...
As I correct my thoughts.
Okay.
I had an area of concern. As much as we are talking about how to manage our economy, it's very clear that, in fact, in the last 5 good years, we have been refining what we have been sourcing oil, and we believe that, in fact, oil is part of the subsidy that can offset this country in a major way. But we are not seeing any single result out of what we have been refining. And the biggest question is here. Before we became an oil explorer, we had what we call a refinery in our midst at Mombasa.
Yeah.
That refinery, you get to not to understand why are we taking our crude oil out of this country, selling it outside, where instead of doing it, refining it locally, and using it here to reduce our economic cost. If we are serious, really serious about how to progress in terms of fighting the subsidies of our economy.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I'm lost. And though I am a member, it's a question that I have asked and I have not seen an answer. And I also need to hear from...
Asked who?
My good friend. What happened?
Why we went to be exporting our crude oil other than actually...
He's not had an answer to that, so yes. All right.
What happened, maybe just to mention on that, you see, our exploration is actually a very expensive affair, especially when you are starting off. So what our country decided by then, which I think was a good idea, so that we really don't get into the oil cars like most of the countries have actually done, is that we decided to get into a JV with a company. Now, the company, the Talo Oil, the company that we got into a JV with, we told them, please check here and see whether you're going to find some oil, and if you do so, this is actually now the payment program we can get, we can enter into.
Yeah.
So for a period of, I think, around 7 years, this is how we are going to pay each other. So we normally take like 10%, and then they take the 90, then the second year it goes reducing, they get the 80, we get the 20, until towards the end when we are supposed now to get the 90 and the other way around and all that. Because the refinery in our Changamwe, first of all, will not be able to handle that kind of a thing. And number two, you got first to get the crude oil from down there to dig it, so before you send it even to Changamwe, which was quite a very expensive, because what we deal with Changamwe is after exporting the crude oil also from elsewhere, and we come and do a little bit of refinery that was there. And that was actually the challenge we had with Tanzania. And they opted actually to go to Uganda, to Uganda, because the arrangement, the payment arrangement they were already proposing were very unfair to us. So we thought we'd rather lose out on that business and let them if they agree with Uganda, but we didn't see the sense of on exactly what they were really proposing. However, it's good to mention, because he has a point, a very critical point on that. If I am not wrong, I think we should be able to get from next year, 2023, we should be able to start getting very good percentages returns when it comes in return, in return to that. One of the countries that have been able to manage their oil deposits very well is actually Saudi Arabia, where we do so. There is very critical opportunities that we have lost, especially the year 2020 and this year 2021. There are opportunities that we have really lost, which would have actually taken advantage, because we have really built now the deposit storage for crude oil and stuff and all that. Do you know the year 2020? You are actually being paid for getting oil from Saudi Arabia. You're actually being paid. We didn't do so. Actually, I think I've come across documents where Tal Oil used what we call the force majeure clause in our arrangement to say that in what arrangement we had, we should actually exempt them the year 2020, the year 2021. I think they were proposing for 3 years. They said that that really affected, because they were not able to do business. We would have taken advantage of that later. And see whether we can export as much as possible crude oil, because you're actually being paid. because it's so expensive also to for the storage facilities of the crude oil. But we didn't take advantage of that. So eventually now we have gone back to very high fuel prices and oil prices, very, very high, because of opportunities that we did not really take advantage. By the way, if we were also borrowing to do those kind of things and all that, I want to believe everybody will have really supported that.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Well, interesting. Oil, black gold is a Pandora's box. If we were to start discussing that, I'm sure it will be a whole... Yes, we have to close it. And Eric,
do we really have the refinery still there in Mombasa?
Now that's the question.
Yes, we have a refinery. But just like he's saying, what we get from Saudi Arabia is not the crude that we have right now. We remember, for us to go through, we have this process called fractional distillation of crude oil to get it into some different type of what, even gas and what have you. So I agree. Let's see what happens in 2023. However, as much as we talk about oil, we've always had our sugar. The 12 major functions of sugar in the world. Why is Brazil where they are? Because they've taken care of sugar as their own crude oil. Sugar can assist in making roads, because sugar can bring us tar. Sugar can bring us electricity. Sugar can give us food color by what we call caramelization or something like that, I remember in secondary school. Sugar has 10 major functions that if we harness them very well, our country will be very stable. But see what happens with sugar corruption. So those are the things we need to look at. And the way we were saying, if we can harness what we have, our natural wealth, then we should not be borrowing as much. So let's assist the sugar farmers. We harness the sugar things. We even make our own liquor. It's so sad that my friend here is happy taking famous gross. And we can make our own pombe here and give us our own name and even market it internationally. Why do we keep on Jack Daniels, very big names, Smirnoff? What is the difference between Smirnoff and Changa? Why don't we make our own nice brew and sell it from sugar?
That's true.
And then we are wealthy.
But you don't take alcohol, right? You don't take alcohol. I don't know why. I mean, you don't. We have to close on this one and talk politics of coalition. Yes.
My big concern is that, in fact, therefore, it tells that we have a problem of our own.
Yes.
That we have lost very, very important basis of harnessing our revenue. With that, just for what we call ignorance. Because there's no way that you can lose all those commodities that you can get from the sugarcane, and nobody is caring about. Then where are our planners? Where are our professionals? Where are our experts?
Where are our leaders?
Where are our leaders? Because really, one has to be seen taking the lead in terms of reviving back those areas. But now, totally, we have left the agriculture to die. I don't know at what time we are going to revive it. We are now seeing a situation where coffee is dying, tea is dying, cotton has died, and almost everything else. At what point this country depends on agriculture?
Well, we are headed to that crucial moment where we have to close. Okay, no, less than a minute.
Yeah, you know, the challenge we have is because we have really relied on the traditional cash crops, which actually we export them to Europe. And by already now the market in Europe for our cash crop is so inhibited. I mean, we can't say that we really enjoyed the kind of monopoly we were enjoying. It's time now we check, is there another market for other things around Africa which we can farm?
Right, well, to
I'm surprised the other day, Linda, to see that we are importing onions from China.
That's a sad thing, you know.
It's really sad.
We are.
We even said that we're closing them over from Tanzania, but now you could find that the onion you took last night is from China.
You know, it's the other day that I was in the market and there were I was in the market the other day. There was some greenish kind of eggs, and I was told this was imported from Chinese. And they said that people are buying. I'm telling you, I think they're already boiled. They are already boiled.
Do you know where that takes you? Is where me and Kagoni would agree on in terms of our tax regime, because the cost of production is so high. Right? So producing an egg here and importing an egg as well, it is easier to import an egg as opposed to producing one here. Yes. So I think we need to address our tax regime and look at the cost of production. Because once we address the cost of production, then we shall not be able to harness what we have. If for example, today, look at the cost of producing milk. It is so expensive. You know, it is so expensive. most of the things, most of the basics that we do, the cost of production is very high. So we have to have the government look at how they're going to zero rate some of those things that will help us. For example, products that will make us, develop animal feeds and all those things that we import from outside. So once we're able to address the cost of production, then we shall be good to go.
And I was talking to this lady, who has, she keeps chicken, and she tells me, I'm telling you, you have to have a hat.
Yes.
For you to be able to handle this.
I am telling you, Linda,
they are zinaenda zote.
I can tell you for sure. They are not that this country can live. Let me tell you, we have empty lands. Just move from all the way from here to Baragoi. It is quite...
I asked the CS for lands the other day. She was here. On what is happening and what are we doing to harness on this land that is empty, yet we have very many Kenyans who want as quotas, very many of them who do not have jobs, but they don't even have this land to.
Including we have enough spaces to bring here locally those industries that we think they are best here. Because bring industries that are in Japan, that are giving us the product from Japan. Come here, assemble from here, so that at least you take what we call a job. Because those job seekers, they will not be using Japanese, we'll be using our local people here. Bring other big industry from China, including those who makes what we call TVs and these smartphones and everything. Bring them here locally. Because here, first of all, you create a job. Even though these factories will earn money, you create both and the prices will cover. And the other essence is that what Kenya has cemented here. The element of our costing, because our product costing is what is totally alien and moving our investor from the country elsewhere. Because surely, if it is land, the land has no control. And if the government cannot be able to be there to assist an investor to get a land to invest, then where they're using, you are setting the investor the market at a rate where he can only get a half an acre at 100 million. It will not be possible for him to invest there. You just move to where that is provided by a government. So we should look at those areas that can give what we call incentive to the investors, so that we can move them here.
All right. Yes. Well, interesting.
Dagota came here.
Disappeared. Said he can.
Disappeared. You see, he wanted to do summit. All right. So he's going to Ethiopia, and the cost of production in Ethiopia is so, and the tax regime in Ethiopia is so favorable that we can able now to actually import cement from Ethiopia from his company at a cheaper price than what you get here. And wanted to put up a company that would take cement to 300, 250. But then
the kickbacks and all that.
The other day, there is something called an aid tax. There is an evangelist who was complaining in the US that wanted to come and seek boreholes here, but he was told there is a tax that you must pay to it to help. We are coming to
which is supposed to be at zero, actually. Yes, which is supposed to be at zero.
And then you're telling me you're going to tax.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy.
Gentlemen, why do I have a feeling you don't want us to talk politics this morning?
No, we can.
Politics of
but I can tell you, the one factor that the government must think on the rates to do with energy, electricity. Because most of the dependence of industry depends on that line. But I can tell you our rates are totally unfriendly.
It is simple.
Something has to be done.
Sugar harnessing brings electricity. Just assist our country to get to the natural resources. Energy will be almost cheap. Many things. We just need to wake up and stop being ignorant.
Sugar itself is outrageously expensive, and therefore sometimes you have to lie.
We make
the
it
doctor
expensive.
That has decided that you don't take sugar yet.
Yeah, we make
just
it
because
expensive.
Of the expenses. All right, Jimmy, do you still feel like President Uhuru Kenyatta is part and parcel of Jubilee government?
He's the leader of Jubilee government.
Is he?
He's the leader of the...
Is it time that we also have the likes of Ikonya saying that, just like they have been told, step out if the kitchen is too hot? Don't you think it appears as though Jubilee is extra cold or extra hot for the president, and therefore he really is not concerned about it?
No, and I think I've said in your show before, what really gives most of the political parties in Kenya the real stamina that would say that it looks very flowery is when you have the next presidential candidate and a very strong presidential candidate who is actually coming from the party. The moment we...
So you agree that the DP is strong enough?
Possibly I'll have some of my reservations.
Okay, all right. Who are we referring to in this case? I'm sorry, I assumed that it's the DP you're referring to.
You see, Mukisa Kitu is yet to announce his party.
Yes.
But this is the point. By the virtue that the President Uhuru Kenyatta is about to retire, that in itself has actually contributed a lot to the dwindling of the Jubilee Party, if I say so. And by the virtue that we also know that his deputy could actually be using a different vehicle altogether, not Jubilee, to actually look for, seek his mandate to become the next president of the Republic of Kenya. That is, the moment we will change that aspect where the parties are not really, they do not generate their power from the next presidential candidate to more of the philosophy and the ideologies that we agree on, that will completely change. And I think we have said here before, if you check on parties like in America, the Democrats, the Republicans, and even in UK, you check on the parties that are there, you realize that they are more driven by other social ideologies that are there, more than, like for instance, whether they agree on issues to do with gay marriages, whether they really agree on issues to do with tax policies. Those are the other things that really drive. Us is more of who is the next candidate, and that is actually the challenge. Now, I thought Jubilee, when we were coming together, I actually thought Jubilee would be able to overcome that by the virtue that they had actually, when we dissolved the other small parties and decided that let's come together and see how we can put this together and move forward, I actually thought that we'll be able to get beyond there. Unfortunately, it looks like it is the party cast that we must deal with in the country. As far as the president is exiting and the next guy, we are not clear exactly who is the next guy. It's not coming from that party. That is now the challenge that we experience.
All right. How do we get to issue-based, politics? How do we get parties that are issue-based, like he rightfully highlights what we have seen in the UK, what we've seen in America? Ours is tribally based. Ours is, affiliation to this particular individual. How do we get Eric Ragalo to switch, from that aspect of being a diehard of Baba and, speak of, importance of creating change, ideologies that really will sell and transform the nation?
You said it
I stand corrected.
That I am diehard of Raila. It is true. I am a diehard of Raila. That is no doubt.
Based on what?
Based on the year I came to know Raila well. That was in 2002.
Yeah.
When I was in college, and I joined Raila bandwagon due to the change environment he was bringing into our mind, that we needed a new Kenya, a Kenya with this and this and this.
When was that?
And that was 2002.
Years down?
From then up to now, we had many people who today, they say they have political parties. They were all members of ODM. Is Kalonzo Musyoka, is Mudavadi, is everyone. They were all members of ODM. So ODM then was not a party of a tribe. It was a party of the whole Kenya. But they were all former
members of KANU.
They were all members of KANU, and even me, I was a member of KANU and everyone, because there was no other party. The party was KANU. By default, you are a member of KANU, you like it or not. My father was a member of KANU, but he didn't like it.
Remember the multi-party?
The multi-party came in
1992.
That's what I'm saying.
And these guys get out of KANU,
that's the other day.
2002.
Right.
So they enjoyed 10 good years in KANU, even after multi-party.
In 1992, he wasn't a member of KANU. Let's be honest. In 1997, he was not.
With KANU,
you understand? So merging with KANU, he didn't pick a KANU membership. He actually left immediately. So what I'm trying to tell him is, he has to check his history very well. So, that said and done, Jubilee, when it came in, it wanted to craft itself as a multi-ethnic conglomeration of tribes, so that they remove that tag that it is a one tribe or what party. They did it well. They tried. They brought in Ruto and many other people. But what happens? So when we say a party is a tribal party, it becomes tribal when our mindset runs that way. Because inside that wiper, we have other people from other tribes. But when we look at the higher end people, we say, when Raila is there, no, all Luos are there. My party was supporting BBI. I was on the no. Why was I on the no?
I mean, initially you were on the yes.
Yes, then I went no.
Yes.
Am I not a Luo to follow Raila blindly the way they say we follow Raila like cows? Somebody said that.
Do you want to say Ragalo change the hat?
He did. You didn't know?
Yes to no?
Yes.
I
Shake his hand.
I want to weigh in on that. I want to weigh in on what he's saying. And for the first time, we have agreed on something. I never even knew that you shifted and said no to BBI. Of course, I was known to be the only person who said no in Kiambu. You come in handy again. Thank you. So, but let me address the issue of political parties here.
Yes.
And let me talk about the political party that has sponsored me to the County Assembly of Kiambu. I want to tell you that Jubilee today is a shell. All right, is a pale shadow of its former self. So it's a shell. So I'm looking at proposals that ODM and or rather the NASA fraternity wants to join Jubilee. And I'm asking myself seriously. The NASA team is a team that has not been able to deliver on anything. You know, they hardly nowadays agree even on anything. They're not able to harness enough of their individual political parties' power to bring in a vehicle that would enable them to form government. They now want to join another lame thing. You know, that is in a deathbed. Yes. All right. That is in a deathbed to form a coalition again that will do the same thing they have done years before. And so it's crumbling. It's coming down. All right. So that is a formation that is bound to fail. Political parties, as Kagoni here have told you, in other countries, believe in something, socio-economic activities, things, and they have a belief system. That is why I'm telling you, for the first time in this country, we have a political party that is on the basis of a belief system that cuts across all religions, that cuts across all tribes,
the Hustler movement.
The Hustler movement.
Oh my goodness. Jimmy, let's allow Jimmy to come in because time is moving very fast.
The hustling movement, it is not about any tribe, it is not about any religion, it is about a common problem that all of us have. And that is the way to go.
All right. Yes. Not Jimmy, not Muhesh. Muhesh, hold it. Let's go to Jimmy first and then we'll come back to you. Jimmy, as members or at least sound supporters or, sympathizers of the Jubilee Party, would you agree to a formation of a coalition between Jubilee and ODM and making it even better? Want them to tag along the rest of the NASA parties?
Yes and no. Yes and no, because let me say something about the Hassarin party.
You better make it brief.
Yeah, the Hassarin party. And by the way, the two honorable members in the House today, they are really missing on an opportunity that really propelled Raida to be who he is today in 1994. When you don't agree with a party, the honorable thing to do is to exit from that party, resign, go and seek a fresh mandate.
Just what is agreement? Just what is agreement? When the president says that he will support NASA coalition, yet he sits in Jubilee Party, we'd expect him to say that, well, we're going to work on someone in Jubilee Party. Just what is to say?
No, there is a coalition actually in the Jubilee Constitution. Even in the Jubilee Constitution. Even in the Jubilee Constitution. By the way, yes. Now that the head of state has pronounced himself to work with NASA, can he resign and join NASA? In the Constitution, in the Jubilee Constitution, there is a clause of forming coalitions, both pre and post. The president is open actually. He can actually use that.
That's why we've seen him bringing the rights of Kanu.
What I think my good party is trying to do, I think they might have realized that maybe we might not have anybody else inside. Now that the deputy seems not to be interested with our party, they have realized that maybe we might not have a candidate from the inside who could be that of that stature, very strong. And therefore, is there a party that we can work with that has that one candidate who has such a national face and say that we are supporting them and maybe have a merger?
Do you somehow agree then with what Mheshimiwa says that ODM is shooting themselves in the foot by joining a shell already?
Not really. Let's talk about Jubilee. Let's be very honest about Jubilee.
Allow him to finish his line of thought.
I am telling you, is a pale shadow of its former self.
Allow him to finish his line of thought.
Jubilee is on a deathbed. Jubilee is on crunches. And let me tell you something.
Jubilee cannot bring anything on the table.
They are not even going to deliver.
You understand very well how important the president is in forming the matrix.
Let me give you an answer.
Jubilee is on a deathbed.
The Constitution says
at the funeral
in December,
yes,
it will be 8 months to election.
Okay.
What happens in December? When we go to January and Ikonya will still be in Jubilee, he cannot shift.
Yes.
In December, we will have people leaving Jubilee. You are
willing to go and pay for 1 year.
In April, remember,
yes,
the party must take the list of its members
to the IEBC.
So in December, you will see many people who feel they are Jubilee enough remaining in Jubilee.
Yes.
Those people who think they are UDA enough will go and leave the government and go to UDA.
And paid for at least 1 year.
That is the time I'm seeing even the deputy president leaving and resigning.
There's no question about that.
There is no
if at
question
all he is going to
about
be
it.
exiting.
So now the question will be, Ikonya, are you ready to exit your seat?
Yes.
And a by-election is done in your place.
You can't do a by-election after, it will be less than
there won't be much of there's going to be an
Are you ready to announce that you've left?
What I am simply telling you.
That is the time
That is the time when the truth,
Let me conclude.
Even Mheshimiwa,
I'm not out. Let me do a
Yes.
very simple conclusion. I'm telling you, Jubilee is on a deathbed and the funeral will be in Kiambaa.
Mheshimiwa, will you be willing?
Now, what I would say, and very short and clear, we have two desperate parties. That is ODM and Jubilee Party. Those are totally desperate parties. And the nature of things they are doing now, it's out of desperation.
Okay.
One, can you assume a ruling party that's now rushing to do merger with less a party that is in governing? What a picture is this? For sure. No, my good friend.
No, the point is this is a party that is running the government.
Yes.
How can
on the other
no, we have to close that.
Yes, on the other hand.
This is a very interesting thing.
Yes, on the
other not rushing to form a government. This Jubilee is government. And then you get into a I mean, for heaven's sake, that is desperation.
Close it.
I am telling you, and at this particular juncture, I will tell you for sure, out of this desperation is why things are going in that speed. And let me tell you what the outcome will be very soon. Very soon you will find a situation, because the trick was here, it was to nab Caroso, to nab Mudavadi, and to nab the rest so that they can part of this. But they have wise enough that they are out of the trap.
They are confused.
They are not trapped. No, let me tell you, they are off the trap. I can tell you. I am telling you.
Will be there.
All right, gentlemen.
Whether you will be there or not,
no parting.
the time will tell.
We have
the time will tell.
We can't do a minute. You can see the other gentlemen are waiting already.
Add 1 minute.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Remember I told you about the Form 1 selection. It happened. Yes. Kiambu people are totally disappointed. And they sent me here to tell you that people are disappointed. We have a county school, for example, a school that was elevated to a county school, that now has an admission of the people who applied to be in that school were not admitted. What we're getting are people from the Dandora, Nairobi, and everywhere.
Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, every student has
give
equal
an opportunity to the people of Kiambu, because our students have been.
Have you heard what Mheshimiwa is saying?
Do you know someone with 300 marks is now being called in a day school in Kisii and in Kiambaa? For heaven's sake.
Is there anything wrong with that?
Is there anything wrong
in terms of observement, you have to have a room to the locals.
Yes.
Let me tell you.
Are these other ones children of lesser God?
Let me tell you for sure. You accommodate the rest, but don't have a percentage to accommodate the locals.
That's a new conversation altogether. I think that is misplaced.
You have a national school here, and you cannot treat your student there. You can only take your student to Mombasa.
So national
what is wrong with that?
I am saying those facilities should.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes.
James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Anthony Ikonya, Member of County Assembly, Kiambu Township Ward. Eric Ragalo, Political Analyst. And lastly, Jimmy Kagoni, Emerging Markets Strategist. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We get to a different conversation altogether on matters relationships.